Today in our 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee, we're going to be installing Roadmaster's EZ4 baseplate kit, part number RM-521440-4.
Now that you've got your base plate fully installed, we've got everything else that we'll need to get our flat tow for our vehicle behind our motorhome set up. We've got our tow bars, which is the connection point between your base plate and your motorhome's hitch. We have our braking system. We have our wiring, which gives us all of our stop, turn, and tail lamp signals from our motorhome to our vehicle. And to be able to connect our tow bar to our base plate, we're using Roadmaster's Quick Disconnect Kit. It'll give you a secure point that'll allow your vehicle to be pulled behind your motorhome. On each side, there'll be a location for your safety chain and a connection point. The sleeves here for your connection point can be disconnected by pulling the pin, rotating it, and pulling it out, and that'll just give you a cleaner look when you're not using your vehicle for flat tow. Additionally, your base plate has a mounting bracket for your wiring and for your breakaway switch.
We'll begin our installation at the front of the vehicle by removing 2 pins located here on the top. Use your trim panel remover tool to pop out the tab in the center, and then you can pop out the pin. We're now on our driver's side fender well. You'll see 2 plastic pop rivets. We're going to drill those out using an 1/8 inch drill bit. Once you've drilled out the center, you can pull the tab out. We're going to do that with the other one and the 2 located on the other side. It might make it easier to turn your wheel so you can get access to drill them out. Above your plastic rivets on each side, you're going to find 1 bolt. You're going to need to take that out with a 10mm socket. You can now pull your trim back. This simply just pulls away and you pull it out. This way we have access to our fender here. We're going to do that on both sides. We're now underneath in the front, just under our bumper here. We're going to need to take out 3 bolts using a 10mm head socket that run along the front. We'll then have a bolt on each side here and one in the same spot on the other side. We'll need to take those out as well. There's 1 pin located on the front between the bolts we took out. We're going to need to take that out just like we did with the top ones, popping out the center. Now on the back of our splash shield, on our cross member here, we're going to need to take out 2 bolts using a 13mm socket. There's now 5 twist pins we'll need to take off. We'll just twist those, and that'll release and pop out. There's 1 on each side and 3 along the front. We're now ready to remove our fascia. So we can reach in here. You might want to pull out 1 more tab if you're having a hard time. It's pretty tight. And just start popping this out. Just pull outward to release it. We're going to release it on both sides. Then on top, we're going to pull out and up on our center pieces to release those. And then we can begin pulling it forward and away from our headlights. Once you've got it popped out, you want to check for any electrical connectors. You'll have fog lights on each side. So you'll want to pull those tabs on each side of that. Right there, there's 1 on each side. And pop it out. And if you have there'll be another connector here if you happen to have that option on your vehicle. You'll want to pull the lock out from the center and press in the release tab and pull it out. We can now set our fascia aside where it won't get damaged. If you have tow hooks, there'll be a large nut located at the back you're going to need to remove with a 30mm socket. You'll do this for each tow hook. We'll now remove both bolts located on each side of our tow hook here with a 16mm socket.
We'll now remove both of our tow hooks. We'll now remove the bracket that our tow hook was sitting in. There's a bolt located here and then one further up in the channel back there. We'll use that 16mm socket again to do this. You may need an extension to get to the back bolt. We'll now take out our brackets on each side. Just below your bumper beam, you're going to find a bolt on each side. We're going to remove that with a 13mm socket. We can now put our main receiver brace in place, and it's going to line up right with our existing holes that we took out for our tow hook. And this goes for all of your hardware. Make sure that you put red Loctite on the threads of each bolt. You can get some red Loctite here at etrailer.Com. We'll then take the longest bolt with the large flat washer and lock washer and slide that through the rearmost holes of our brace. Sliding up through the bottom, we'll thread right back into our existing weld nuts. We'll do this for the front underside bolt and the rear underside bolt. We'll now put some red Loctite on the bolt that we removed here and put that bolt back in. If you have tow hooks, you'll reuse one of the bolts that you took out of the tow hook and go back up into it. If you didn't have tow hooks, you'll have to use your hardware that comes with the kit in order to bolt up this side. We can snug that up with a 16mm socket. Now we'll take our remaining hole towards the inside and we're going to drill it out with a 1/2" drill bit using our receiver as a template. Now that we've got our holes drilled out on both sides, we'll take the thicker bolts that are shorter that come in our kit. We're going to place on a lock washer followed by a flat washer, and we'll put some red Loctite on that. You'll want to prepare 2 of these bolts. We'll now take our cross brace. If you are planning to use the electrical mounts, we're going to line it up over the holes. We'll slide our bolt up through the hole, and we need to make sure that we have one of the spacers included in the kit between our main brace and our bumper. And on the inside of our bumper beam, we're going to feed in one of the handle nuts and thread it onto our bolt. Once you've gotten one side started, it'll make it easier to put in the other side. Now we can go back and tighten down all of our hardware. We'll use a 19mm socket for the bolts we just placed in, and 17mm sockets for the new bolts that we placed underneath. Then go back and torque all of your hardware to the specifications found in your instructions. And now that everything's torqued down, you can trim off the excess handle nut length. I just use a pair of side cutters and I just work it back and forth while cutting them. Now back on our fender, we're going to need to trim that to make sure that the bumper fits. So the flaps located here, we'll just need to cut these off. You can do this with a cut-off wheel, or I'm just going to use a pair of tin snips just to trim this off. And we'll do that on the other side as well. And now we'll just reinstall it in reverse order that we took it off. The kit comes with new plastic rivets that you'll need to use with a plastic rivet gun and reinsert those in the locations that we drilled them out. And that completes our installation of Roadmaster's EZ4 baseplate kit on our 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee.